Hi, and warm welcome finally to our next webinar. I'm really happy to see all of you here for the webinar, The Importance of Cultivating Sustainable Development and Long-Term Value for Your SaaS Business. My name is Sabina Engdahl, and I'm the Group Digital Marketing Officer at System Verification, a leading software quality assurance company in Northern Europe. I've been in system verification for 3 years, and I've learned a lot during these years about how wide scope our 350 consultants actually work with every day. And when it comes to software quality assurance, we do so much more than test, which people still think that software quality assurance is all about. So there are QA needs throughout the whole development lifecycle. And sometimes it's not even in the DevOps loop where we need to work to get the most out of our product or our teams. It could be structural, organizational changes needed to be able to optimize the outcome and to keep or to raise the quality for the results or the end user and the customer's expectations. This is a big task, and I haven't even started mentioning the world around us, the external factors. Today, we want to take the opportunity to talk about quality and long-term value creation in a wider perspective, to give you some ideas and insights that you can take with you in the projects that you're working with right about now, I guess. So, short info just before I start presenting the guys I have with me today. I would like to share with you that today's session is, of course, recorded and will be found on our website, and it will be sent to you later this week. We also have a few functionalities in the tool that we're using, so please use the reaction buttons below the screen here to boost our guests during these 45 minutes. And also we have a Q&A section on the right, so please write your questions there and we will get back to them in the end of the session. Now, I'm very, very honored to have such talented, experienced and important people in our webinar today. I hope that we can answer a lot of your questions and thoughts and give you some insights during this time. I have 3 gentlemen with me today, 2 of them with a lot of SaaS experience and that are now working mainly focusing on the amazing community called SaaSiest. Thomas and Daniel, welcome. Really nice to have you here. Could you please say a few words about you as persons, of course, but share, of course, a little bit about SaaSiest?
Absolutely. And wow, first of all, wow, like we usually don't get that type of introduction. So thank you so much for that. That made our Monday. No, we're super excited to be able to join here today. And while we are not necessarily quality experts per se, today we're going to try to portray some of the opinions that we hear and see a lot in our community. So we look forward to this because quality is such a big piece in what our members produce. And long story short, obviously, personally, I've been involved in working for SaaS companies for 17 years. I know I look like 27, but I've been at it for quite some time.
Quite impressive.
And I've always worked closer to the revenue side and go-to-market side. So what people used to call sales back in the days, in leadership roles there. And even there, believe it or not, quality was a big aspect as to how you go to market and how your companies, what you're selling, how they perceive you, and so on. So I have some own experience into how quality can play a role in this. And while I was a one-trick pony working in sales a lot, Thomas, you had a bigger role.
Sure. And I guess for you, it was more than when customers complain about things that were broken. You come to think about QA. So I've also been in sales, but more later years within a product. So I've been at it a little bit closer as a product manager, where QA has been an important part, of course. And just to mention a few words about SaaSiest, we are a SaaS community focusing on democratizing knowledge in between B2B SaaS professionals in Europe. We have more than 900 companies active in our forum, and we also have network groups for different roles within the company. And there we also have groups for CPOs and CTOs that I have the privilege of moderating. So, and besides these networks, we also do some big events. We have one in Malmö in April and one in Amsterdam in October, where we gather the community for a few days of knowledge sharing and networking. And yeah, a very engaged community, and I'm happy to be here today.
Awesome. Thank you for joining. Sounds like we have the perfect guests today. And over to you, Bobby. You also have a lot of SaaS experience, and you're one of my great colleagues here at System Verification. Please share a few words about you as well.
Thank you, Sabina. And hi, guys. Nice to meet you. And first of all, I would like to thank you for the events that I've joined regarding SaaSiest. It was super fantastic, great community, and I know that it's growing, and I advise everybody who hasn't been to your events to join. I think there's a lot of sharing and a lot of knowledge to take away from those events. So happy to have joined previously.
We appreciate you.
Thank you. I've been working for System Verification for 18 years, so I'm also one of the young guys, Daniel. It's not only you. I've been working with business development and sales, I would say, most of my time at System Verification, and I met a lot of companies through the years, and I would say the past 5 years, there was a lot of SaaSiest or SaaS companies, I would say, that are either in the beginning of the journey or right in their journey, so to say, where we have both advised and also took, how to say, knowledge from and adapt the way that we work towards these companies. That's short about me.
Yeah. Cool. Great to have you here, all of you. I think I really look forward to this conversation. Well, we have divided the topics for today into 3 different parts. We will talk about what is quality in the SaaS industry? How do we define it, or what do you think about it when we hear it? Expectations from our customers or the end users, if it maybe differs from the last couple of years, and so on. And also we will address challenges, and maybe also connected to what we can do within QA to support and to create this long-term value creation and quality that we all want. And lastly, then we will have a little bit key takeaways. So all of you 3 will be able to share your key takeaway from today in the end of the session. And of course, a Q&A session in the end if there's any questions. So please write your questions in the Q&A section to your right if you have any during the session. So let's begin with the first topic, quality. It's, the complex, obvious we need to work with it, but it's super complex, and how does it work? So I just throw out the question, what is actually quality within SaaS?
I think that's such a great question, and also a very broad question. And I would actually be curious to hear from the people that are with us in the webinar. Now, as you mentioned, Sabina, they can write in the chat. So, yep. Amuse us a little bit. Why don't you write, a couple of sentences how you would define quality in SaaS? And from our perspective, when Thomas and I thought about this a little bit, we looked at it from the perspective not just internally from the SaaS company, but looking, from an ecosystem perspective. And really, when we checked in with some of the vendors that we have closer chats with, we landed in basically 5 bullet points that define in their world what quality is. And obviously, one of them is that we all know is what we call reliability. Like,
yes,
whatever you produce, whatever you send out there, it needs to be reliable. And for many people, that is connected with, the simple answer, uptime. Mm-hmm. If you buy a SaaS solution today, we all know that, in the standard SLAs, everybody guarantees 99.5% uptime. The 0.5% that is there, that is for maintenance and so on. But everybody is expecting that. So that was bullet point number one, reliability. The second thing is that it's performance. Whatever we ship out there needs to perform at a level that we've promised people in the marketing, in the sales pitches, and what they're expecting. And Thomas and I have worked for SaaS companies for a long time, and we stumbled across this issue in our previous job, where people were expecting that the platform will be able to handle, in this case, bigger and bigger and bigger files. And the system wasn't built for that in the beginning, so we had to catch up. But there's a certain performance expectation that is linked to quality.
And that's everything from, what happens when I click the button, how long do I have to wait, to, how long time does the import or export or all of that, maybe things that runs in the background take. So performance is, on different levels for the user.
Definitely.
And everybody has to agree on what performance is. What is fast? Is it 5, 3, 7, 8 seconds? That's also part of the quality process, I would say.
Definitely. And one thing that we talk a lot about in our community, and some of it is driven by legislation, other things are driven by, just because it needs to be handled, is the security aspect. Whatever we ship, whatever we produce, a lot of us are handling sensitive data and so on, depending on which industry you sell to. You might have personal data and so on. The security aspect is a big thing that is addressed in many of the quality discussions we have. And then, of course, Thomas, what you were alluding to a little bit, like quality for a lot of people is related to the user experience. It's not enough that it works, that it's there, that it performs and so on. Quality is linked to, is it intuitive? Does it make sense for me to click here, click there, and so on? Or would I expect it to work in a different way? And we see that this is a much bigger emphasis over the last few years compared to what it was in the past. So having the end user in mind and their experience. And of course, the last thing that I think people have always thought about it, but it becomes a little bit sometimes the aftermath. Quality is related to continuity. A lot of companies, they make big investments in software platforms and so on, and these software platforms are integrated into other platforms left and right and so on. What they want to make sure is that, one, continuity, that this business will be around for many years, but also as I tweak and turn and twist and add more integration, that this will work forever, that I don't have to reinvent the wheel. So those are the 5, call it bullet points, when we checked in the community, when they say, like, this is how we would define quality. I don't know, Bobby, does that make sense with you? Is that what you hear out there as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely. These are I would say that if we count them to 5, these are the 5 that everybody's talking about.
Yeah, and I think John also have a great here. He's actually adding a 6th here with it's also to be compliant with the regulations in your market and so on. So that's a great addition.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have these as a main points, underlying points, I think there could be 10 underlying points on each category when it comes to the technical approach. We will not go into every detail, but there's integration, there is deployment, there is how you work, how your organization is structured to be able to handle this. How agile are you? Because I think as a SaaS company, you should be agile when it comes to feedbacking with your customers, the expectations, the experience. You should bring back that loop to the development and to your backlog in general regarding the development. So a lot of connection points here from the technical aspect as well. But these are definitely 5 points that companies are talking about. And there's challenges with this as well. Sorry, Sabina, you were
No, I was thinking about this. This is a good blog topic we need to dig deeper into in details, because we have 45 minutes in total, and we have a lot of things that we want to talk about. And I think that based on these five areas, or 6 now with John's suggestion, we can probably refer to them when we talk about the customer and end user, and also the challenges, because everything is linked together. I guess you can help me there. I would like to jump over to the next topic, actually. So let's dig deep into end user and the customer and the expectations. So have that changed? Have you seen that have changed the last few years, or is it just like the digital area is taking next step, and we develop accordingly. What do you think about the experience?
But I think the expectations from the customers have they have higher expectations on you as a company. I mean, SaaS as an industry has matured. A lot of the companies have also, taking more and more steps to be more professional in this sense, and it becomes also, a competitive advantage if you have this in place. And I can also say that, if you look at the development of a SaaS company from a smaller one to a larger one, we have had the pleasure of, doing that journey a couple of times. And in the beginning, a lot of the testing is done directly by the developers. They are testing their own stuff and so on. Then you come to a situation where you might assign someone at the company to do user tests, right? You write some user cases, and someone, it could be the same person that are doing documentation and so on, does it, right? Then you might have a more professional. Maybe you get someone that actually are trained in doing tests and so on, and you try to have a more process around it. And then eventually you look into more automation in order to manage this, because a lot of SaaS companies, what they've strived after is to do as many frequent updates as they can, right?
Yeah.
Before, maybe you did an update once a month, then maybe you do it every second week and so on. And I mean, a lot of SaaS companies are doing continuous deploys daily, right? Which also means that you need to have a lot more automation in place. And if that is the story that you sell to your customers, that you're doing these daily deployments, then it's also important to show that you also have a good process and a good machinery when it comes to ensure quality, because otherwise you might fail on one of these 5 or 6 steps that we talked about before. So
and one obvious trend that we have seen there, Thomas, or at least we've been made aware of from our members, is that back in the days you could get away of having a process where, and I'm simplifying now a little bit, but you're building something, you're putting that in a production environment or maybe a test environment before, and then somewhere tests it there. But you had these steps: you build, there's a test environment, if it's all okay, it goes into a production environment. But what Thomas said here, that if you're doing daily drops, you don't have the same flexibility maybe to do, okay, here's a dedicated period for test. And so what we see is that people try to integrate the testing and quality assurance exercise much earlier in the development process. And I don't know, that's probably something, Bobby, that you also see when you speak to customers out there.
Yeah. Definitely. There's they take earlier steps. They take more structure, because depending on where you are at your company, what stage you've reached, you can be more and more effective of automating it. But you can also structure it in a way when you are going to scale, that you can handle that scale. And I think automation is something that will bring this agility, but it will also bring, I would say, the try fast, fail fast version of things, so you're able to adapt fast to what your customers actually gives you when they give you feedback. But bringing that QA mindset even earlier, I think that's a bigger change than compared to 5 years ago. We see that at companies that they do that. But structure is something that you do in the beginning, or try to structure, so you are able to handle the scaling afterwards, because it's easier to scale in a control manner when you know it's scalable, and when you have the tools for it, than to remodel after you've grown and then try to structure and scale thereafter. It will cost you a lot more. So the shift left strategy from a I would say software development perspective, they are pushing it to the left to say that more you should test earlier, you should think about QA earlier. But now when it comes to deploying much faster software, and you should be able to react much faster to the feedback that you get as well. That's also part of the QA process, I would say.
What do you guys see from the customer's perspective around expectations? Would you say?
I would say, as you said, I concur, Thomas, with your analysis of it, because we are getting more picky as users. We are trying to compare stuff where stuff was good previous. You expect that from another system, even if it's not alike, even if its service are total different. The expectation of speed, performance, reliability, you try to connect that as a user. And when you get used to something, then you will always strive to get that back. And that's also, I would say, a finger pointing from the customers that say that, hey, if you're not good enough as they are, I won't choose you as a supplier or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So companies has to be more on the toes, and has to be more flexible and more agile and react even faster, I would say.
And that is the very nature, and it's in the DNA of the SaaS business. The big selling point for when this world moved from perpetual licenses to SaaS was that you have the optionality. Like, you're only going to run with me and our platform for as long as we fulfill a need. Like, that's why you pay monthly or quarterly or yearly. You don't commit to a 5-year contract, or it's a different exercise. But that also puts some pressure on me, because many of the SaaS companies out there, of course there's exceptions to the rules here, but they're replaceable. Like, I can switch off and say, like, I don't want to do this anymore, and tomorrow I can license another platform that is up and running for me, and so on. So people are used to this, and that comes with certain expectations. Like we said in the beginning, it should run and so on. But also what people expect, I'm paying you a monthly fee, not because of this should just run and be there. I'm paying you the monthly fee because you promised me you're going to update. There's going to be a bunch of new features all the time.
Exactly.
Because otherwise, I don't want to pay you a monthly fee if it's going to be the same platform all the time. I'm expecting a certain level, and rather frequent, that there's a new level of new things coming in. And that is, of course, putting a lot of pressure on quality assurance in the entire process for companies.
Would you say then that the roadmap of these new features is a really important way to keep your users and customers engaged, and to feel like I should stay a little bit longer because then I will see this feature and so on? Or is that more of a curse, that you're promising a lot of things that is difficult to deliver?
Yeah, roadmap is really a hot potato when it comes to SaaS companies, and also Daniel here representing the sales. It is often an important sales tool, because often you want to sell stuff that maybe are not ready yet in production, right? So within
I've never done that.
But then again, if you look on the product side, there is also so many different prioritizations that you need to do. Maybe you have technical debt. Maybe you have other things that need to prioritize. It might not be the latest shiny thing that is highest on the agenda for the product department. But I think the roadmap is important when it comes to showing the product, the company's vision of the product. What direction are you heading? I think you should avoid putting dates and too many promises. I think it's more of a strategic tool, but I think it's important to keep the customers engaged, and you can do that in various ways. Anything from having that you can suggest and vote for functions and so on. It can be a great input for the product department and so on.
And I think it's an excellent question. And I think that also probably brings us back to some of the shifts we're seeing. And if there's a bunch of CPOs on the call here, sorry if I offend you, but we tend to see, again, a shift in how companies work. Back in the days, you can get away with, somebody and product would have a grand idea, and then the idea would be built and implemented, and we're hoping that the market would like this. We see that the best SaaS companies, they don't develop anything until it has been truly vetted, demanded, and asked for by the market. That's when the development starts of this, which means that product managers, CPOs, CTOs, everybody that traditionally worked on the product side, what we see today, they're much more closer to the end customers.
Yes.
Yeah. To the fact that we've also seen a shift where many of the CPOs that we have in our community, and also to our surprise a little bit, also own a certain bit of the commercial strategy. Often the initial part is they own the pricing strategy. And that just shows you a shift that, the gap between product development and end user is much shorter and tighter now than it was back in the day.
It is. I would say that you have to, not have to, but if it's good if you can incorporate some of the end users in your product development as well.
Right.
Just to be right on track, and just to also regarding retention in general, I would say if you engage them in your ID, I think also as a SaaS company you're able to retain a lot of them, to not switch the platform.
And I see we have Christian at Uqualio here in the chat. Great, thank you for sharing some links here. Say hi to Hatla for us, and keep the comments coming.
Yeah, definitely. And we need to keep the agenda running as well, because I think that we need to move over to our third topic, and also, of course, connected to everything we talked about already. But when we define challenges within SaaS, because now, of course, the retention and engaging the users and everything, that's applicable for all companies, I guess, not only SaaS. But do you see any specific SaaS challenges that we need to highlight here to talk about when it comes to quality, end user expectations, but also other things?
Absolutely. And I think one thing that lies in the very nature of SaaS, and sort of one reason why you choose to build these kinds of solutions is scalability. I mean, the idea with SaaS is that, while you have the technology in place and so on, you can just add more customers and you can scale the solution, right?
In theory, it's just adding more computing power, but it's not always like that in the real world.
No. but of course, in that process, and I think we have experienced this when it comes, it could be anything from the databases to other things that at some point you will reach a threshold, and it's important to make sure that you can handle a big upscale of your solution. Another thing, already mentioned it before, is the technical debt. Right.
Yes.
And I mean, there are so many SaaS companies that they have a platform, they have been at it for 6, 7, 8 years, and there's so much new technology all the time that you need to make use of in order to be efficient and integrate and switch frameworks and all of that. So trying to reduce that on a continuous basis is a big challenge, especially when you need to move fast. So ensure quality and moving fast at the same time it's tough. You need to do that prioritization. And other things, it's also when it comes to resource allocation. I mean, how many people do you want to put on the maintenance and QA side versus developing new features? It's definitely something as well. And then it's also, we mentioned security before. That is also something that always, it comes up new potential threats all the time, and you need to be up to date on that as well. So a lot of challenges, I would say.
Yeah.
A question there, Thomas. Sorry, Daniel.
No,
regarding this, because it puts a lot of demand on the organization to be able to handle this, either by growth or by competence in general. What would you say that the SaaS companies are more willing to do today? Is it more to grow and handle those kind of strategies, or use external expertise?
I think many SaaS companies need to bring in external expertise in some of these areas. I would say security would be one of them, because it's a whole discipline when it comes to everything from penetration tests to and I mean, there are some good softwares out there as well that can, make sure that all the third-party, libraries and things that you use, all the open source parts and so on, are secure. So I think it's a mix of bringing in software and external help to make sure that you sort of have a good security routine.
I noticed that as well, because I see that there's one thing of knowledge, there's one thing also of the ability to how do you say, to attract people for your company, because everybody's fighting for the same kind of I would say competence today. And we're not talking only about Sweden. If you talk about Europe, there's a lack of engineers within the field in general. So I think if you try to do this by yourself, the journey will be longer. If you don't utilize external help, either if it's within the security part, or if it's performance part, or if other aspects of quality and software development, I think you will probably get behind in some way. But I've also noticed when I joined SaaSiest event here in Malmö in April, there was keynote speakers that were talking about you don't have to do this yourself to make a great journey, but use the correct help at the correct time. And I see also from our side that this is more interesting now than previous 2 or 3 years, when growth was a big, I would say, key.
And what would you say? What are the main areas where people seek external help?
It's either, I mean, there's either you take on, or you outsource, or call it what you want. You ask people to solve a problem with the whole project, or they do the proof of concepts, POCs, to see that stuff is working. Or you actually do I would say, now I'm biased, I would say QA, of course. But because of the QA, because you want to handle this in a good way, a good manner, you bring someone that has already walked the mile. So you don't have to make the same mistakes as someone else has did. But there's a lot of help from a company that is niched within QA, because often there is frameworks that you can scale. You don't have to buy proprietary tools in every given, I would say, aspect of it. And I would think we're like, or a QA company that has this niche that we, for example, have. We're actually a turbo for the motor. We will get you going faster, I would say. But often it would be security, it would be performance, it would be more effective how you work with QA. So when you have to grow with people, you grow with a solution that can actually handle your QA from a tech perspective.
Yeah, because a certain part of the QA you want to have really close to your dev teams, right? So that you would want to have your own staff, and I think we see that in the Scrum teams and so on. You want to have the QA people there from the beginning, already. When you're planning the new features, so you can stay on top with the different tests and so on. But definitely, when it comes to certain where you need the special competence around scalability and security and some of these other things, I think there's a lot to gain by hiring external specialists.
Exactly. But also monitoring. I think we within the field with QA now, we would like to see ourselves, now it's a bit commercial here, sorry, but we like to see ourselves a bit ahead of everybody in the field. We actually do monitoring, or I would say we actually work with predictive QA, where we can actually see where changes are made in the code, in the modules, and we can actually predict of where the possibility based on technical depth and changes within the code, where you should do more QA. Either it's from I would say, technical aspect, or more from a manual aspect. It gives us some kind of, I would say, insights in that way. So we're able to track and monitor. People don't use this. Maybe they get a snapshot of their of the code, and everybody, or they think it's quite complex, but we are one step ahead, and it can actually also prioritize with the tools that we are using what you should fix first.
So what does this mean, Bobby? And a question then from a commercial person here like me. Does it mean that you have a certain tool in there, and then that analyzes the code and so on, and then you put a set of eyes on it from some expert on your team that takes that analysis, draws some conclusion, and then flags that, wait a minute, you're going to be short on people here in 3 months if you continue like this, or you're going to break something down the line here?
Yeah, it's a good way of summarizing it. But if to be not too specific and go too much into detail, but we use the tool, but only using a tool, and if you don't have the knowledge on how to drive this forward, it's useless in that sense. So tool combined with the expertise, and you should have a champion within the organization that actually likes to or wants to act and react on the findings that we find or that you find yourself with either through a report or through somebody that's taken charge of it. If you don't act upon that, you can have every insight that you want to have. It doesn't make it better, I would say. But the combination of a tool with the correct person and I would say do something about it, that is your way forward.
So how common is it that that software companies or SaaS companies use this more proactive approach to finding quality issues?
I would say until we have spoken with them about it, they don't have a clue how to work with predictive way of with QA, because everybody wants to build an organization. They want to grow, of course. As a SaaS company, you have VCs that also wants you to grow, for example. But when it comes to the fact that if two organizations align, combine, and merge, then you have technical stuff that you have to check to be able to do something more effectively. There's a lot of aspects of that. So until we have given them some kind of, you could do this as well in this way, they actually don't think about the predictive QA part. Most of it is reactive, I would say, until now.
It's really good that we have then a suggestion of one kind of solution at least for one of the challenges that we have mentioned then. And I guess that there we could talk about this areas for a very long time, and it's very insightful, and I've learned a lot. We are closing in on the end of this session, but I would like to take the opportunity to ask all of you if you have any key takeaways. So from this conversation and from preparing for this session a little bit, what is your one or three key takeaways that the listeners should not forget that they should bring with them? What do you say? What's most important?
Great question. I guess I can go first. For me, it's been obvious in this conversation, but throughout the years, really here, as being an operator myself, and now having the opportunity to observe a lot of SaaS companies, that QA is not a step that comes down the road in your process. QA starts day one. It's integrated in everything you do. So we've seen a shift there that, it's not something we do a little bit later after the next sprint and so on. You need to find a way where you embed this thinking, this process from the very, very get-go. That is probably the main thing I'd like for everybody to bring with them. And then the other thing I want to emphasize here, maybe because I have the background of being a commercial person myself. Like back in the day, I feel people looked at quality, if we look at some of these specific ones, security or reliability as the uptime and so on, we need to fix it. It's a security issue. It is a reliability issue or whatever issue it is. Actually, I would say it's not a security issue. It's not a reliability issue. It's a commercial issue. Because if you don't fix these, you won't win the deal. If you don't handle these, you won't have the retention you need. So I come from the world where I used to sell enterprise software. And they had a lot of requirements. Like if you couldn't show that the organization is SOC 2 certified, you're not in the deal anymore. Yeah. So some of these things, it's not just a technical issue or security issue. It boils down to commercial issue, which I think also will help you then. If you have a lot of quality things you need to fix, start looking at the ones that block you from winning the deals or have you losing customers. That's where you need to prioritize, in my opinion.
All right.
Good. Awesome. Thomas?
Yeah, I have to say, now when Bobby talked about the predictive QA work, I think that was interesting. And I don't know how much the companies I worked for worked in that way. I know that, something that we tried to do more and more was to to get automation in place. And I know that there is, it's nothing that you just screen there. It's a lot of work to get that in place, and I can just imagine how much is happening in that area now with AI and machine learning. So I think a lot of the companies in our network is definitely looking into how they can use that new technology to enhance how they work with QA and the quality assurance. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
QA.
Awesome. Yeah.
I agree.
Great. Bobby, then key takeaway.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, my key takeaway should be that you don't have to do it yourself. Now I'm biased. I work for a consultancy company that works with these kind of things. But don't stay at the same place if you want to go fast. There is help. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you do something. There is external help to get, and the value that you can get from that. I mean, if you can't get the ROIs directly from day 2, you will be able to get that further down the road by just thinking about quality all the way, I would say. So
Awesome.
Think about QA.
Think about QA. I think we nailed it regarding the QA there. We have a few minutes left. No questions at the moment, but please, I will share with you an opportunity now, and you can have a moment writing a question if you have any on top of your head. So before that, I would like to say that you now have, all of you that's been a part of this session, have the possibility to sign up for a free workshop together with us at System Verification, talking about quality issues, pains, situations you're in your company that needs solving, and maybe just talking about quality, defining quality for you could be one way of spending that workshop together with our experienced QA consultants. So sign up in the button below. You can read about it as well on the landing page and decide if there's something that would fit your team or your organization. We have no questions in the Q&A.
I have a question for you, Sabina, or for you and Bobby here while we're giving people a chance to type their questions. So I guess, Bobby, you see a lot of SaaS companies, you come in, I'm presuming now, or assuming that, it's usually when things have gone south a little bit. The big question I have is that, is there a dedicated role in the SaaS companies, the way you see it, as somebody that owns the quality process? Not somebody that does the testing, but somebody that owns the quality process. If so, what role is that normally?
I would say CTO has one of the main, I would say, drivers for working with quality. And depending if you have a CTO or if you have an engineering manager, I think there could be a level of who's doing what and who is pushing forward for what. But I would say if you do work with the software development per se, then you have an engineering manager. But if you have your internal, I would say, systems and looking at as a whole, I would say a CTO is also the one that should drive this forward. Depending on where you're at as a software company or a SaaS company, I would say, if you are 5 persons and you're aiming to have a CTO, maybe you shouldn't hire a CTO before you have a blueprint of how to work with software development, quality, and how you integrate other systems to your organization. Maybe you should wait and bring on somebody that is more hands-on. It could be a more, I would say, experienced developer that can get you going, and then you should hire a CTO. But CTOs and engineering managers are the ones that usually should take responsibility for quality in general.
Was that the answer you expected, Daniel, or were you thinking about someone else?
No, I was leaning towards the CTO function as well.
Yeah. I guess that it is a question and an area that is actually something that the whole company needs to address and have in mind and work with and take responsibility for. But that's, I guess, from different point of views when it comes to
100%. We are firm believers that a big question like this, quality, is something that should involve everybody. especially if it has some commercial impact.
It
But
has.
we're also a firm believer that problems or big topics that don't have a single owner usually tend to be deprioritized. Therefore, there needs to be an owner.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally agree with you, Daniel. QA or quality should be prioritized from everybody. Everybody that has some kind of saying in the organization should think quality, either if it's how you build your team regarding something or how you end up delivering the end product. Quality should always be in mind, I would say. But that it will affect the whole thinking of the or the organization if you have quality in mind.
Yeah.
Awesome. Time is actually up. We're not allowed to take any more of your time, and also the participants. We are having other plans during the day. I'm really, really, really happy about you joining, Thomas, Daniel, and Bobby, to talk about this interesting and engaging topic. We will share the recording of this afterwards. It will be found on our website. And don't hesitate to click on the button below if you want to take a part of a free workshop together with us to dive into the quality area a little bit more. And reach out through LinkedIn or anywhere if you have any questions or thoughts about this area. Thank you so much and take care.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye
Bye.
now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.